Studies in Potsdam. It's organized by Ortsjugendwerk ADO, and I don't really know what it really means, but yeah. I don't feel like a PhD student at the moment after making this presentation. What I really feel like is this. I never sailed on a cargo ship, I'm not an expert, and this is my first talk on this topic. Okay? Why I'm telling you this is because this topic is not related to my previous work experience, or it's just out of curiosity, because I came here to study. Is the video on?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I came here to do my PhD last year in February, which is the peak winter time here, and the place where I'm coming from is a very tropical, bright, sunny place. So I just had to, I was just basically pushed into a dark freezer, and where nothing is growing and it's all dark and gloomy. So, okay, I'll come to that later, but because the next slide here shows that I should tell you the structure of this talk. So, yeah, the structure of this talk is this. First, I'll tell you the history and evolution of shipping. There'll be a short quiz at the end, and totally it's for 20 minutes. Same for the next part, which is issues and future directions for shipping. So this part will contain the present environmental issues caused by shipping and ethical issues. This is also for 20 minutes, at least I'll try to complete in 20 minutes. And then we'll have a group discussion about some of the juicy topics that are being discussed here. And mostly it involves reflecting on the topic and questioning deeper. It's a concept, a discussion format that I didn't try before, but let me try this now. You're like my guinea pigs. This is for 10 to 15 minutes. And finally, feedback. You can, if you don't want to tell it to me, like on my face, you can just comment on the video that will be uploaded over there on Facebook. I'll send you the link on the Facebook event page, and you can comment on the video. And this is just for 5 to 10 minutes. Even if you're watching the video, you can just take 5 to 10 minutes to comment. This is the structure of the talk. Important guidelines is that this may have very sensitive content, so you might get triggered by this, so get ready for it. So this is like a warning. And ask questions and make comments only by the end of this 20 minutes talk. Why I'm telling you this is because I don't want to start any kind of a debate or a conversation in between. But of course you can ask me if you want me to repeat something. Like you didn't understand a word or a sentence, you can just say, could you please repeat that? But please try not to start a discussion. Don't take that too seriously, but I'm just telling this to you to avoid any kind of awkward situations, okay? And then remember that I'm not an expert, and this is mostly just my line of thought in independent research, and it's based on my experience because I came from a tropical country to a cold country. Okay? And just in case I don't have time to acknowledge my sources and everybody I want to acknowledge, so I just want to take some time to acknowledge. Firstly, the organizers. Thank you, Helena, Nadia, and hey, where's Helena? Yeah, Helena, Nadia, and Kaya, and all the others. If you've organized, sorry if I don't write your name. And for cooking, thank you so much, Seema and Email. So it was actually kind of my responsibility to supervise and stuff, but then I was totally absorbed and basically drowned in making my presentation. So thank you so much, Seema and Email, for making this really colorful and delicious food. And then, so you'll see clips that I basically ripped off from YouTube channels. And I downloaded the video and I trimmed it and just put it in the presentation. So I would like to thank the channels. Because this is an independent research, so don't expect high-five stuff from here. And other sources. So this book, this has been very helpful for me. It's by Heinrich Boell Heinrich Boell, I don't know, Germans pronounce it better, Foundation. And they provide these summaries of all the issues that are faced in the ocean, or there are other atlases called Fleisch Atlas, or Agriculture Atlas, Soil Atlas. So they provide a really good summary with really good graphics in it. So I really also recommend you guys check out this book. It's available for free download online. And thanks to all my friends, especially Katarina, she's not here at the moment, Moritz, and Annika, and Fabi. These are just special mentions because they were kind of close to me, but all the others as well. And also thank you all for coming. Yes, now I guess I can, unfortunately I can't really write all of your names here. So let me go back to my history. So why did I really start thinking about this? Here's winter in Germany, dark and depressing and cold, and and that is winter in South. Sorry, what?
And nice and cozy.
And nice and cozy if you're inside. But winter in South India, that's something you guys I would like to share. That's the time when we do harvest. And that's the time which is like the most economic time of the year. And you can see kids playing with sugarcane, and you can see down there, use the pointer, yeah. Yeah. Okay, where's the pointer not working? Yeah. So down there you can see art made from rice flour. So that's the time where you can find abundant availability of food stuff, like, so that you can even waste it by making art from rice flour. But yeah, that's where I'm coming from. And usually food is grown all year around. There are seasonal variations, and there are times when there is some scarcity, but still food is generally grown all year around. And here I saw there's no food, so how do I survive in Germany? My main concerns were food and warmth, naturally. And so those both food and warmth have been handled by this. So food from supermarket and heating, warmth from internal heating and hot water supply. But then think about it during the medieval times, 600 years ago. How was it? How did they heat their homes? You must have already seen the oven in the main room. So that's how they basically used to. They used to make a furnace, and they use the same furnace for baking and also for heating, I guess. Is that true? I don't know. And for food, it's basically just bread and meat. That's what I would guess. It's just bread and meat. Then there's pickled vegetables that were grown from summertime, and marmalade. And of course, beer. Right. But then now I'd like to get into the meat of the topic, which is history of shipping. How did it all start? So let's see what the purpose of shipping was. It was war and conquest, and then it was for exploration, it was for trade. But nowadays, again, it's for commute, it's for supplies. For example, if you have to run a research facility in Antarctica or in Greenland for that matter, you have to use shipping to provide supplies to those places. And that's where you can't fly in with huge houses into it, but shipping containers can do that. So shipping is really helpful for maintaining research facilities in remote areas. And lastly, party. Okay, let's go to the first one, war and conquest. Just to show how ships were looking like back in the day, thanks to movies like these.
Sorry,
I said sensitive content, so you can close your eyes if you can't see. But so you can see people are really rowing the boat and in a very harmonious manner. And if someone is really pissed off, they would just look what he did. And really, to go deeper into how these rowers were treated, look at this video. Music is really important. So the guy gives the rhythm, and if you want to increase the speed, and these slaves, they were having the hardest time.
Thank you. You have good taste for ethnic movies.
And if they are tired, they just litter, basically. Yeah, this is from an old movie. Can you guess the name? Anybody? It's a very old 1959 movie that has been recolorized. It's called Ben-Hur. It's an Oscar-winning movie. So thanks, it was a good choice, as you said. So there was rampant slavery, and there was extreme brutality, and also dying for the kingdom was considered virtuous by the soldiers. So this is the root of how shipping used to be back in the day. And then the other aspect is exploration. So this started during the Renaissance era in Italy, where there was a revolution in art and sculpting. So previously it was just art and sculpting just for the church and nothing else. But now during the Renaissance era, they want to fund more artists and sculptors and all kinds of various other talents. And for that, they need more money. And in order to, or supplies, basically. And for that, they had to make more easier trade routes with Asia, because there was already silk and spices that were being traded through the Silk Road over there. So more money means more materials, and there would be more art. But thanks to this guy, thanks to this thing, and thanks to this guy, Christopher Columbus. So what he did was he thought that he could find Asia by going west, and he found, according to the European terminology, India and these Indonesian islands, they are called Indies. And when Columbus discovered these islands of Bahamas and the whole American continent, these places were also called the Indies, but then they had to be separated. So this place is called West Indies, and then China and India and Indonesia, they have been termed as East Indies, which was changed again later. But basically, Europeans considered these West Indies and East Indies as some colonies from which you can get some exotic stuff. And what exotic stuff? That's in the next slide. So Columbus's discovery of the islands of Bahamas made it possible to start your own plantations and to get all kinds of exotic products that you would usually not get in Europe. That was, for example, coffee. It's not from Europe. Tea, cotton. It's also not from Europe. And then chocolate, or cacao beans, and then tobacco is also not from here. And then anything that is pleasing and exotic shall be shipped, because it's the Queen's order. So she would just drink tea like that, and then they'd say, okay, bring more tea from there. So that's how plantations were developed. And what these plantations are, I just need to explain them a bit more. Before colonization, the food was grown based on your own pasture lands, but when there was colonization and there was a requirement for abundant produce to be shipped, large pastures of land were conquered, and throughout the whole place you would basically grow the same thing, that is tea or cotton or cacao or whatever, cash crop. So that was the purpose of plantation, and that was made possible by colonies. Then, how were ships evolving back in the day? This was, I just ripped it off from a game poster, but but still, it makes sense. So even before Renaissance era, that's how the ships were, and then they added some more degrees of freedom to it, even more degrees of freedom, even more, and now it's quiz time. Alright, don't worry, you can also learn a bit more from the quiz. Alright, here's the first one. How did sailors find their coordinates? Longitude, latitude first. How did the sailors find their latitude? They didn't have GPS, they didn't have...
The sky? The stars.
Or the sun position.
Position
A
of
sextant, like an instrument.
Good, yeah. They used an instrument to measure the angle of the sun at noon when it was at the most highest altitude, and that's how they could find which latitude they were. And maybe there's also a video, and this is pretty harder than you think.
Navigators knew that the height of the noonday sun varies. On the equator, it would be high in the sky, but in the far north, the sun remains low on the horizon. By measuring the angle between the sun and the horizon, latitude could be calculated, if the navigator could survive the hazards lurking in his own instruments.
As a cross-staff, this was actually designed for use on land, and it was adapted for use at sea. One of its problems is that one has the staff held against one's eye, and with the ship moving up and down, you not only get blinded by the sun, but you also get badly bruised on the eyebrow. So it's not the easiest of instruments to use.
18 degrees.
So you got that right? The ship moves up and down, and this instrument is designed for land, so you can't really... that was how it was calculated. But longitude, that's even more interesting. How did people get their longitude from? Where did they get it from? Yeah?
By conserving the time.
Yes,
they
exactly.
conserved the time and measured at what time the sun is at the highest point. And then they looked on the clock, and if it's 1 hour after 12 o'clock, they knew that they were 1/12 of half of the Earth far.
Perfect.
Like
yeah.
this.
Exactly. And there's a really good graphical representation of this here.
Ja, klar.
Aufgepasst.
In theory, a clock should work. The Earth turns a full 360 degrees in 24 hours, or 15 degrees each hour. To know the longitude, one must know the time in two places at once. If a sailor knew when it was noon at the home port, Greenwich, England, for example, and then had to wait 1 hour until it was high noon on board his ship, he would know that the ship was 15 degrees west of Greenwich. If the sailor had to wait 2 hours for the sun to reach its high point, he was 30 degrees west. The challenge was knowing the time at the home port while sitting hundreds or thousands of miles away.
The challenge was to get the accurate time where they were and where they're coming from. So they just used the time difference to get the longitude, which is even more difficult. But okay. I'm still confused about whether the speaker is connected or not. where are these products natively from? Okay, so what I did was I just jumbled all of them, and it's for you to guess where they are from. Okay, apple. Where is it originally from?
Turkey.
Turkey. Good. Chestnut. Chestnut. Where is it originally from?
What is chestnut in German?
Castagna.
Castagna.
That's a difficult one.
Wow.
I think chestnut's from China.
No, it could be.
No, there's no options on that.
Wiki.
Wiki.
Yeah, go ahead.
iPhone, Joe?
From the store.
I might be wrong, so I just
Chestnut, North Africa.
So chestnut is from Europe, from here, from Castagna Alley. Alright, aubergine. Aubergine. Brinjal in English.
North Africa.
No.
South Africa.
There's no South Africa in there. I should have remembered that one. Yeah.
India is from India.
Yeah, it's from India. That's right.
India.
And
Yeah.
A ginger is
Agave.
agave.
South
Agave, America.
South America.
Oh yeah, okay. South or Central America, somewhere over there. I'll get back to you. And then there was macadamia. Where's it from?
also America. North America.
No. It could be, but it's not from there.
It's not from
It's
America.
from Africa.
Australia?
Australia, yeah. And then what else? Yeah.
Coffee.
Coffee.
North Africa. And it's
Our place. Origin.
And South
Where's
America.
Sorry?
South America.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting coffee from South and Central America, but where was it originally from?
South America.
I think it's growing in the rainforest of South America.
Italy? Italian
Maybe in the
coffee.
future, with climate change. Not now. But yeah, there's an interesting history behind coffee. So coffee was first brewed in Ethiopia in North Africa.
Yeah.
So we said it, you didn't accept.
Sorry. All continents sound similar to me. But yeah, so it was grown in Ethiopia and it spread to the Islamic cities like Mecca, and from there it came to Greece and then to Vatican City, and then there it had to get the approval from the Pope. It was hard to get, but finally the Pope somehow approved. And also some people speculate that coffee was the reason for Renaissance. So coffee was there in Europe even before Renaissance. So that's something special. Next, barley. Where's barley from?
What is barley?
America? No, I think maybe
What
Middle
is
East.
barley?
Middle East?
Of English?
It's Middle East? No? Middle East?
Yeah, it's from the Middle East. But what is barley of Deutsch?
Gerste.
Yes.
Okay. Dankeschön.
Yes.
Potato, Kartoffel.
South America.
South America.
Perfect.
What's that?
And
This potato was from my garden.
Salsusine.
Yeah.
Okay, Erdbeer, strawberry. Strawberry is Erdbeer.
It's from Europe, I think.
No, there's
No,
just
one
one
thing,
option
North-
that's remaining.
Central.
Where is it from?
North America.
North America. Hope you guys had fun. The next one. This is kind of twisted, but let's see. The first refrigerated ship was taking something from New Zealand to England. Oh no! I know the
What is this shit?
Isn't it funny that they are shipping meat
Spieleice.
frozen beef all the way from New Zealand. And what's even more funny is that nowadays they're shipping apples all the way from New Zealand.
But how did they do?
Do what?
Freezing.
Freezing.
In ice and salt.
But the ice was... How long did the ship take? It was a couple of months, I guess, right? So the ice stayed for the whole time on the ship, do you know?
Yeah, pressurized. Like under a lot of load maybe.
No, if you put a lot of ice into a compartment, it will last for a few months.
So
It's
just just the amount of ice.
It's just the amount of ice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to look into that later. Write it down. Okay, you can write it in the YouTube feedback. Alright, so frozen meat. Okay, so in 1950s, this guy revolutionized the shipping industry by commercially introducing what?
The
Container.
Yeah, that's also a given. Yeah, containerization. So what's next? So finally, I think I'm done with my 20 minutes, so I'll just summarize quickly. Shipping has given us a wide spectrum of things. From so the evolution of shipping has taken us from rowing slaves to sailboats to heavy motorized ships, and it took us from sextants to, I should have included compass there, so compass, and then to GPS, and then from bulk cargo to containerization, and from pastures to plantations, and from regional to global. Now, I'm not saying either of this is good or bad, it's just there, alright? So you can argue, pastures to plantations is something bad, but bulk cargo to containerization is something good. But still, that's how it has been, and we'll just work with it for the next talk, okay? And now the situation with the ships is that I just took a snip from what's written in this book. Shipping routes are the world's arteries, and ships are its blood cells. So 90% of the global trade is seaborne. Why am I showing you this? Is because there will be a question about it in the next segment. Okay, so this is from here. Now you guys can take a break and refill your plates. Any questions? Any questions? Or you can also ask them later on the YouTube comments. Alright, maybe we'll stop the video. Press the red button.
Okay, no.
No, it is.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so welcome back. This is the part 2, that is the present and future of shipping. The part that I'm really... I've been breaking my head over this part since the past 2 days and 2 nights. And that's why you can see now, remove those, and I'm basically that. I'm not a PhD student, I'm addicted to chocolate. And doesn't really know what comes from where, and what goes where, and I'm super confused, I know. But yeah, one thing is certain, ships nowadays are huge, like they're big. Okay, just to scale, that's... Okay, and not just this, there are some technical aspects. It weighs 200,000 tons, so 200,000 kilograms, or 200,000 grams, whatever. But that's the weight of a typical large container ship nowadays, and the engine power that is required to move it is of the order of those many horsepower. So, for comparison, cars take about 100 horsepower, and race cars take 1,000. Planes take more than ships. That is 150,000 horsepower. I'm just telling the order of magnitude, but it varies between each ship. But even then, I would say ships are not thirsty because they consume just the efficiency of the engine is a little better than not the efficiency, but the fuel usage and the power of the engine is much more than the cars, and in between the a little less than the typical airplane. But when it comes to horsepower per ton of cargo being carried or transported, or as space scientists would call payload. So the load that you transfer, that pace, that's called payload. So the power that is required to transport a ton is the least consumed by ships, and that's why they are used so much for trade, and also their capacity is so high. That's why they are used so much for trade. But the issue is that they're very, very, very noisy, not to us, but to the marine organisms under the water. The logic is that water is a very efficient sound transmitter, and because the molecules are closer. And then deep ocean animals, they rely on sound. There's not much light over there in the deeper layers of the ocean, so they rely on sound for communication or even for spotting prey or to look at their food. If you want to look at the Kircher Epsom curry, we would just look at it, but then they have to, and then, oh, that's Kircher Epsom curry. But yeah, so that's the scenario. And what does ships' noise do to them is nicely illustrated in this video.
In 1991, sound emitted from Heard Island was picked up at 16 sites in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans.
It turns out that one of the most common noises in the entire ocean that can be picked up almost anywhere these days sounds like this. It's the sound of boats. Noise from ship traffic has doubled every decade since the 1960s.
So basically, anywhere you go, the ambient noise in the ocean is dominated by anthropogenic sound. Let's say I made a measurement 30 years ago, and now, if I went to the same place and made the same measurement, it would be 10 dBs or more higher sound level than what I measured when I started my career. That's spooky.
That's a huge problem for animals that use sound as their primary sense. Just listen to this audio of how noise from a passing boat totally drowns out dolphin communication.
You've heard that, right? When an ambulance passes by or a fire station, but these are not fire stations or ambulances for animals. But they just disturb them a lot. Okay, the next one is my topic. Air pollution from ships. What you see on the map over there is the NOx, that is nitrogen monoxide and nitrogen dioxide. So the concentration of total NOx anthropogenic is like human emissions, like from transport or from energy. So you can see that the shipping emissions are almost comparable to how much we emit over land. And you can really see that a ship has passed by in that really intricate lines. So, wait, I'll use the pointer now. So you can really know that this is a shipping route just by the smoke it emits. This is a shipping route, see? Through the Suez Canal, that's a shipping route. Through the Panama Canal, this is a shipping route. So, basically you can find the shipping route based on its smoke. And it's very dirty, and it can also, if the winds can carry it inland, then the air pollution can also be experienced over there. And one more thing that is interesting with shipping fuels is that when they're near the land, they use some kind of clean fuel, but when they go deeper into the ocean, not deeper into the ocean, but like when they go more into the ocean, they use all kinds of cheap and very dirty fuels that emit sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide and all the other aerosol particles. And there are no regulations, there are no police over there, and only near the land they tend to use cleaner fuels. So yeah, that's the situation with air pollution, and yeah. Who would like to work in ships when these are the conditions that you face in the ship? Like seasickness, of course, seasickness, and then months of being away from family. If you have to, for example, ship meat, refrigerated meat from New Zealand to England, 2 months of basically nowhere, and that's in your job description, and then away from civilization, and yes, no internet, and then you'll have to do all kinds of menial dirty work like clean the end of the container or go up there and bring that, or all kinds of calibration stuff. Would you do that? If you really want to, please, you can take the liberty to raise your hand. I would be happy to see. No, alright. But this video shows. This time I didn't include videos in it because the problem that I faced with making part 2 is that it was very sensitive, and I have to selectively pick out some of the topics and add in only the topics that are kind of okay to discuss. For example, I didn't talk to you more about plantations. So, but I can take an entire new seminar just on plantations. But I had to omit this one because it's too sensitive and also it consumes a lot of time. So similarly, in this one, I had to omit a lot of smaller portions, and this is why I was taking a lot of time to make this presentation, and so it's not as organized as the history presentation, so please bear with me. I'll just show you something to know about. So what this blogger is trying to understand from him is how do we get to know if someone is a seafarer or not, or a person who works in the sea? How do we know if the person is a seafarer or not? And he does how?
Filipino seafaring life. So, mostly, there's one way you can tell whether a person is a seafarer or not.
But you have the secret way to tell anybody walking on the street. You can determine. Really? Yeah. Okay. I'd like to hear that.
First thing you need to check is this big backpacks. This is a small backpack. Yeah, this is a small one, but you know, this guy's always wearing big backpacks because they have their documents, a lot of stuff inside. Yeah. Okay. And second is seafarers wear like this branded shirts like Nike or even this collared shirts because when we report to the office, we're required to wear those kind of clothes. Okay. And then the shoes. A lot of seafarers like to wear this Nike shoes, sneakers,
like comfortable shoes,
like this. Also, this basketball shoes, the Jordans and stuff.
So, if you see somebody walking on the street with a big backpack, a Nike shirt, and Nike shoes, you can say with 100% certainty that is
not 100%, maybe like 80%.
It's too much of glitch, but so basically the point that I wanted to make is that the Filipino population is they're just going for seafaring because it pays them well, it pays them in a branded way, and so that's why they take up this kind of profession. And you won't find any Europeans or anybody from the developed world doing that kind of stuff, but only from developing countries like China or Indonesia or Philippines, Malaysia for that matter. So this is one thing that I wanted to tell. And wait. Can I take some more time to fix this thing? Production of ship breaking. Once the ship is out of service, the so-called developing countries, they try to make money off it by breaking the ship and taking its spare parts. Now, it's not done in a very organized way, the way it is done for airplanes. In airplanes, they really know which part belongs where and how we can take it out and reuse it. But for ships, it's not that way. It's completely random and very dangerous working conditions for people who are involved in such an industry. So this shows some clips from how it's really done.
My senior cutters do.
Won a Pulitzer Prize.
This part.
Heavy metals were used in their paints. Some carried radioactive material. These substances are released with every cut. The sand, the dust, the air are full of it. Countries like Canada have banned the export of toxins under an international treaty called the Basel Accord. But the murky sail of old ships slipped under the radar until 1998, when 2 journalists won a Pulitzer Prize for exposing it. Then Greenpeace scientists released a shocking report.
We found extremely high levels of all kinds of toxics. If we would find these toxics in the West, it would require cleanup of the sediment. An average ship can easily have 20 tons of asbestos on board the ship. 600 ships a year, that would make 12 million kilo of asbestos being put on the beaches. You don't need 1 kilo to get a damaging effect on your health. That's the thing with toxic waste, with hazardous waste. In very minimum amounts, they can have devastating effects to the health of people.
तो वहाँ जहरीले गैस है, ये सब होने से हवामान का प्रदूषित वातावरण के लिए वातावरण के अनुसार हमारे बदन में फेफड़े सड़ जाएंगे, ये सब तो है ही, और आंखों में भी नुकसान होते हैं।
Pneumoconiosis is a lung disease which happens in most industrial sector areas where there are lots of fumes, gases which is being inhaled constantly. It is like smoking 10 to 15 packs of cigarette a day all the time.
The shipyard owners pay this doctor. His advice to the workers? Work upwind.
While doing the gas cutting, he should remain in the opposite direction to the wind. Wind should just go away because there is a lot of breeze on the seaside. It will definitely harm less to him.
Lang has become a metaphor in the struggle between the third world and the first. Between the poor and the rich. In boardrooms far away, solutions are
Just let me know if that is like too much for you to take.
Shipbreaking become clean.
This documentary goes on
Who will pay?
for the next 30 minutes, but maybe I can stop here if you like. Yeah. So you can watch this Shipbreakers on YouTube for free, and I will share the link on the Facebook page for all the sources that I gathered. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is that these kinds of risky activities and occupations are not really shown in popular media, and so not much action is also taken on this because the people who are running this, they just want to protect their shipbreaking business and they just want to get their spare parts. And now if there are some environmental regulations or ethical restrictions, the whole shipbreaking industry would